This is Andrew Geronimo, Product Manager at BB Industries, and today I'll be talking to you about polishing pads. Everyone has them in their shop. Whether that's a fully automated shop or a mostly automated shop, it still pays to be equipped with the right polishing pad for any job. We get a lot of questions from fabricators and customers, and we're in a great position to give feedback on what works best. So here at BBI, we're sharing our top picks for picking a polish pad. First up, we have material. What kind of material are you going to be polishing? Is it a granite, engineered stone, or a marble piece? Not all pads work on all stones, so there are a few options. Granite and engineered stone pads will work great on those, but on marble or softer stones, they may be too aggressive. And on the contrast, marble pads will work great for your soft stones, but on granite or engineered stone, you will just not get the life you need. So you have an option to pick a pad that works on almost everything, or picking a pad that's primarily geared toward your type of stone. Next up is the stone color. Are you polishing with a light or a dark stone? A dark uba tuba, for example, will do great with a black resin pad or a dark resin. But a white polish pad may not give you the polish that you're looking for. And in the contrast there, a white quartz may not do so well with your dark resins. So a light or a white resin pad is better suited for that. And the reason is the bleeding or the color transfer with these resins. We're always picking high quality resins for our pads, but picking the right color pad for the right color stone will always prevent that bleed and give you the best polish you can get on that material. Next up is the thickness of the pad. A thicker pad will definitely last you longer, but it will also make it more rigid. 3 millimeters is the standard out there, but there are 2 millimeter pads and also 4 millimeter pads. So it's up to you to decide how thick do you want this pad to be and how long do you want it to last. Next up, is it a wet or a dry application? Polishing wet will give you a better polish hands down, but sometimes polishing wet is not an option, whether you're already inside the home or at the site and it needs to be done dry. So picking a wet or a dry pad will be a big part of your decision. Wet pads are meant for water, and dry pads are particularly better at working with those dry situations. Next up is flexibility. Again, a preference. What exactly are you doing with these pads? Are you looking for a flat top surface or a flat edge? A more rigid pad will definitely work for those situations. But there will be times when an inside corner or even a sink cutout, you need something flexible. And in those cases, you will want a more flexible pad. So flexibility is always something to think about when you're looking for a pad, whether you want it to be rigid or whether you want it to be real flexible. Next up is the diameter of the pad. All of the pads shown here are 4 inches, and that is an industry standard, but sometimes a 3-inch pad or a 5-inch pad will be needed, and we have those available as well. Next up are the steps. Generally, the more steps you take, the better the polish you will get, but it does take longer. A 50 to a 3000 grit system will definitely get you the polish that you're looking for, but it will obviously take more time. So for those cases when you're looking to reduce that time, we have 3-step and even 4-step pads available. These cut down that time and increase your production. So steps are always something to consider. There will also be situations where you'll need a specialty pad, those one-off pads for something particular on a job. For example, we have a 30 grit pad, which is more aggressive than a 50 and is between a cup wheel and a 50 grit pad. It will definitely remove material, but still leave your polish ready and prepped for that next step for polishing. There are also pads such as our ellipse pads, which are an off-center pad, which give you an elliptical pattern to prevent swirling on your stone. Sometimes pads with a 4-inch center hole may leave a swirl doing a top polish, but these ellipse pads take away that heartache and make it a lot easier to do a top surface polish, leaving you an excellent shine and not having to worry about swirl marks. So, again, just to sum up, the things you want to consider in a pad are what type of stone material are you working with, granite, marble, engineered stone? What color are you polishing? Is it a dark stone or a light stone? How thick, rigid, and flexible do you want your pad to be, depending on what you're doing and the situation where you're polishing? Also, are you going to be using water or are you doing it dry? There are pads meant for both those situations. And also, whether you need a pad for a special purpose, something different or particular to that job. So now that we have all of that out of the way, here are our top 5 pads that we offer at BB Industries. We've got a pad for every purpose and every person, but we find these are the pads that our customers are most satisfied. So first up, we have our Viper 7-step white resin pads. You can see all the white resin from 50 up to a 3000 grit on here. Next up, we have our Viper 7-step dark resin pads, and you can see the different colors for your darker stones on this one here, and also your Velcro as you usually have with your color-coded grit pattern. Next up is the Viper 7-step dry system from 50 to 3000. And these are meant for dry applications. They can be used wet as well, but they're mostly made for dry applications on granite, engineered stone, even marble, but sometimes a little too aggressive for marble. Here we have our Viper 3-step wet pads. These are perfect for your granites and engineered stones, reducing that time for the polish. Here we have some BBI 3-step pads. These are a little bit more flexible than our Viper 3-step. Also a light resin, which is perfect for your white stones. Next up, we have our Viper marble pads. These were specifically made for your softer stones in comparison to your granites. They have an electroplated on the first 3 steps and then a resin on the last 4. And again, your limestone, sandstone, anything softer. Next up, we have our Talon 4-step quartz system. Even though they are made for quartz, they still work on your granites and engineered stones of all types. And again, reduces the time for your polish. Now we have the ellipse pads with their off-center hole. So pretty much we can see here, there's a 4-inch pad with a center hole. And in comparison here, there is an off-centerness to that hole there. And this one here will have an elliptical pattern when it's polished, so it'll prevent your swirl marks when you're doing a top or a flat surface. In contrast, it can be done with a 4-inch pad with a center hole, but sometimes you may end up with swirl marks if not done right. This takes the guesswork out of it, and the ellipse pad will prevent those swirl marks from going into your stone. It can work on a normal backer, but a backer that is specifically made for this ellipse is available, and it attaches right to it, and it actually has an off-center hole to match this off-center hole on the pad. So that way it's off-centered and then helps with preventing those swirl marks on there. And then next up we have our 30 grit polishing pads. These are available in both a white resin or a black resin depending on the color of your stone. And again, these are more aggressive than a 50 grit pad. They are between a cup wheel and a polish pad, and sometimes you need to remove material, but not that much, as much as a cup wheel. So these pads are great for removing material, getting it ready, and then after that your stone will be ready for a polish. So those are the top pads, and hopefully all of this helped you to kind of see where the options are on pads and what is perfect for you. This is Andrew Geronimo, wanting to thank you again, Product Manager at BB Industries. Don't forget to like our Facebook page, also like and subscribe on this video. Visit us at bbindustriesllc.com, and also give us a call at 1-800-575-4401, and we'll be happy to talk about these pads or any other needs you have in your shop.